Hello, and a very happy Easter Monday to all of you. Yes, it's not celebrated very often in this country, but Easter Monday is a holiday in many parts of the world, and in some parts of the United States, especially in Polish communities, although I'm not Polish at all. Like good Polish sausage, though, sometimes. Like knishes and some of that food. Oh, well, there we are. So, where are we? Oh, yes. Now that we know what day it is, let's get on with it then. Yes. Hope you all had a lovely Easter yesterday and had some eggs and chocolate bunnies. And those of you who celebrate, the Lord is risen. Oh, indeed. Well, I would like to thank all of you who still care enough to watch this silly thing. And for those of you who are new and don't know what the hell is going on and who I am, oh, by the way, uh, I am Dr. Jimmy, and that's Lenny the cat. Yes, yes, good kitty. And I am, indeed, although you wouldn't know it. Yes, you would. I'm frickin' old. Yes, I'm probably one of the very first people back in the day to do vlogging, if you call it that, about Halloween Horror Nights. It's been 16 years since I first posted silly videos. Yeah. 16 frickin' years. Good heavens. My videos are old enough to drive now, and a couple more years to be old enough to vote. And a few more years after that, they can go out and get drunk legally. They already do, but not legally. The naughty boys. Or girls, or thems. It's the 21st century now. Don't assume gender on your videos. Oh, good heavens. What are you doing, lady? Don't go up there. Silly cat. Yes. I think she's going to be here a lot. She's been very much chummy, getting closer to Jimmy. Probably because she thinks I'm going to die at any moment. Oh, dear. Should I keep that in? Yeah. Oh, oh, dear. Anyway. As I said, for those of you who don't know, I was one of the original vloggers, although, as you can tell, it's not very high-tech. I don't have all the lovely edits, and I'm afraid I don't edit at all. I just sit here in front of the damn computer and tape it and then put it on YouTube. I don't have commercials, or I don't know if there'll be commercials interrupting me, but I haven't monetized, so I can say naughty words if I want to. I probably will, in spite of it all. It's not as flashy or as pretty as some of the lovely videos that all the lovely young people who followed in my footsteps over many generations now, it seems like. Well, actually not quite, but still, all those... I must say I loved watching some of their stuff, which is not just about Horror Night, but about theme parks in general. There's so many interesting people who do this stuff now, some of whom I've met at the parks while they go around doing their stuff. It is, like, adorable, and I wish them well. I wish I had the energy to do this more often, and I don't. And so those of you who do follow me think, oh, it's been a full year, now you're doing another video. Good heavens. Well, let's get on with it then. Let's get on with it then. As some of you know, the old-timers, I've always had a remarkable reputation of being able to know what's going to happen at Horror Nights before most people do. Although nowadays that doesn't mean much when they have speculation maps out in January. And they already have the whole thing leaked so early, it's quite silly to even do this every year. But this time I've got a pretty good... I've discovered a lot of stuff that no one else seems to know about. And so I'm going to go ahead and let you know what's going to happen at Horror Nights this year, at Halloween Horror Nights 33. Ooh, that's a nice symmetrical number, isn't it? Oh my goodness. So what's going to happen at Halloween Horror Nights 33 this year? It should be quite interesting. Because I've gotten the full scoop through, I don't want to use a naughty word like espionage. No, that would be wrong. No, I will say, if you happen to be working at security at Universal and you happen to see, a feral cat or a squirrel or a duck holding a little notepad and furiously writing stuff down, they're probably working for me. Arrest that duck. Yes, and Letty answered. Oh, good heavens, what a funny girl. Yes, Letty. Oh, so here we are. So let's get on with it then. Yes, I'm a little bit with trepidation why I've been holding on back, because I'm a little bit nervous about revealing this, because it's... Oh, some of you may be very disappointed. But here's the truth. At the moment, Universal is working furiously on something quite exciting and wonderful. We won't see it until about this time next year. It's going to be... Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Epic! Yes. And, yeah, you probably are aware, if you're going down that lovely I-4... and you happen to look to one side like we always do, say, oh, look at the lovely volcano. Well, that's exciting. Oh, look at that. But if you look the other, don't look too hard, you have accident. That's why it doesn't erupt as much as it used to back, because cars would, like, stop to look at it and then, it caused trouble on I-4. So, that's why it doesn't go off so much as it used to all the time. But if you look in the other direction, I'm saying passengers, mind you, passengers, and while someone else is your Uber driver or whatever, designated driver, then you can look off the other direction, across I-4 from Universal, and you will see that something marvelous, no, I'm sorry, not marvelous, that's an IOA, only because of the old contract. The competition's really not happy about that, although they have that Guardians thing, which is quite a lovely ride, I understand. No, there's something epic going on the other side of the highway. If you look past those interesting curvy buildings, the curvy buildings with all the iridescent panels going up, oh yes. But beyond that, you might see some cranes, or nowadays you might see some actual track going up for some roller coasters that I understand are going to kind of tell SeaWorld to go, do something with themselves, because we're going to have better roller coasters now over here, and we'll challenge your coaster supremacy for Orlando. Yeah. We'll see about that, I guess. That's one of the big things happening over there. But we're going to have fascinating adventures in that island of dragons from that wonderful movie about the Scottish Vikings with dragon friends, and the animated series, and that wonderful land of mushrooms that we all played on NES back, if you're really old, the old NES system, very old NES system. I used to play those little 8-bit games. Boom! That was so much fun. That kind of stuff. Donkey Kong and all of that. And, an arcade was Donkey Kong. That was button mashing back in the day, back in the old days. And then, of course, there's that, what I'm anxiously anticipating, of course, a home at last for the Universal Classic Monsters themselves, our dear friends who no longer have their own cafe, but now will have their own land, finally, after all these years, they'll have their own land in a theme park. Praise be. And also another installment of that turf woman stuff with the boys and plays with his wand all day long. Not a friend to turfs, I'm sorry. I may even get rid of all my old pothead t-shirts. Harry Pothead t-shirts, because I feel guilty wearing them. It might cause trauma to one of my friends. So, we're in it for the girls, the gays, and the theys. But enough of that. Enough of that. So that epic adventure is coming up, and it's going to be quite an interesting fun. We'll probably spend way more money than we should, way more time than we're able to deal with next year over there. But currently, Universal is spending way more money to build the thing and perfect it and get it ready for all of us. Eager anticipation. Yes, that's the problem, you see. Currently, so much money is pouring into Epic that they're running out of money for other things. And the little bean counters, you know, the fellows with the calculators and the people who really run, because creative dreamers and fabulous theme park designers and people with imaginations are not high on the hierarchy. No. The real power is with the almighty buck, because sad to say, this is a business before it's entertainment. Don't forget, there's show business, the business part of the equation, and they're standing there and saying, no, you can't have any more money. So the budget for Horror Nights this year is sharply reduced and restricted, and they just have to do it on the cheap. This is basically your economy class Horror Nights this year, and they're going to have to do what they can do with as little financial resources as they can. And that leads us to some very perplexing problems. How are they going to do Horror Nights and try to make it a good event this year with so little money? Well, they're going to have to make some cuts. With all the budget cuts and restrictions, they're going to have to do with it. Well, one night, so they're still doing 10 houses and 5 zones, and they have a show, and they have, you know, it's going to be a good Horror Nights, I guess, but with limitations. Pardon. Don't worry, I'm not sick or anything. It's not the COVID. Does that still exist anymore? It's not a new plague coming along. No, it's not even allergies. It's just a symptom of my current blood pressure medication. Dries out my throat, so that's why. Lots of water, and earlier the cat was drinking out of my glass. That's her new thing now. She's got perfectly good water in her bowl, but she comes over, stands here, and she'll drink out of my glass. Silly cat. Silly cat. And there she is. She's doing it right now. She's got her face in my glass right after she saw me drinking from it. She wants to see if it changed or got better flavor. Tastes like beard. You silly kitty. Well, where was I? Oh, yes. So, let's get on with it then. The 10 houses. So, what are they going to do with this limited budget? Well, one idea they had, let's see, the intelligence I received from the duck. The cat and the other critters running around. Yes, it says right here. One of the things they're going to do is they're going to take things that they can do quickly and cheaply and easily, of course. Go figure. How do they do that? Well, stuff they've already got. I mean, characters they already have. Easily accessible. stuff they've done before, and so they already have costumes and set pieces for, because they've done this before recently. Oh my goodness, will it be repetitive? Are they going to have old houses coming back? Oh no, they have to do it creatively. They want to do something new and fresh. So how do they balance that? Very simple. People who've not met each other before now do. Yes, they've done that a bit with the Universal monsters the past couple of years. Oh, it's going to be Frankenstein versus Wolfman. Oh, now it's going to be Dracula and the Mummy, and now we're going to France with the Phantom. And so they switch it around. They've done that. So this year it's going to be quite amazing what they're doing with the house, and it's going to be in one of the larger venues, probably the parade buildings. One of the two parade buildings will be Icons versus Monsters. What a great concept. Can you imagine it? Jack versus Drac. Well, now that we know that Jack has immortality from, blood, consuming some of Oddfellow's blood, so immortality plus blood plus Dracula, it's a good matchup. So Jack versus Drac. It's the grudge match that's been brewing for 33 years. Who rules Horror Nights? The Icons of the Universal monsters. That's what this is all about. And we'll have Eddie versus Frankenstein, and Chance because obviously, they're physically, Chance versus the Bride, which would be an interesting matchup because the Bride has no sense of humor whatsoever. And then, of course, it'll be the director, the caretaker versus the Mummy. I mean, again, obvious reasons. They're both old. They like dead things and reanimating, all of that sort of thing. The storyteller versus the Wolfman, because they're both shapeshifters. We discovered that. The storyteller's a shapeshifter now. Oh, that makes sense. The director will be, his opponent will be the Invisible Man. That should be quite a challenge for dear Paolo. It'll be like, I'm not seeing anything in my viewfinder. Where is the guy? And then, of course, Lady Luck versus the creature from the Black Lagoon. Sort of a Beauty and the Beast sort of thing. Although I really shouldn't call Lady Luck a beast. But, I think that is a really neat idea, and I'm surprised they hadn't done it before. But, again, it's something they can do easily, quickly, and cheaply with a limited budget. In a similar idea, they have set pieces from a couple years ago, and they have props and costumes from last year. Put them together, and you have a whole new house. Basically, it's Chucky south of the border. Basically, Chucky Cabra. And so you have the little Mexican village from Chupacabra. They just put that back up, and they use the little Chucky, instead of the Chupacabra puppets, they have the Chuckies from last year's house popping up and terrorizing the people in Mexico. I just hope it doesn't offend anyone, but it should be a wild party. Oh, all right. Now let's see. And another thing they have, it's a fan favorite, and they had all those campsite props and the Winnebago and forest trees and stuff from last year. They've got all that stored. They can set that back up again, but this time they can't do the same sort of thing. They have to change it up. And it's a huge fan favorite, the bear, Hhn Bear. It's always a huge fan favorite. Everybody loves the bear. They're going to give the bear his own house. The Hhn Bear will have his own house at last, but as they got it all worked out, except there was one small problem they hadn't anticipated. They really only have 3 full bear costumes from previous that are still usable, and wouldn't you know it, they can't afford another one. They had 4, but one of them got messed up and they can't use it again. They have 3 bear costumes and they can't afford to make any more. So they are limited to just 3 costumes. And so what they've decided to do is to specifically cast very trim, athletic, and quick team members to be scare actors for this. They have to be, very athletic and very in shape, because they're literally going to have to sprint from boo-ho to boo-ho to make it like there's more than 3 bears in the house, quickly, running madly, and while the guests go through the maze, and they're going to still be attacked by bears all the time. And it's only going to be 3 guys running through the house, very like lunatics. It's like, it'll be quite a challenge for the poor guys, I imagine. I must also point out that cast change is going to be a nightmare in this house, because they only have the 3 costumes. So the 3 people coming on from cast B, the cast A guys are going to have to take it off and give it to the cast B guys, who are going to have to put it on as quickly as possible, and it's going to be all sweaty and funky in there from the previous guy. Ew. But that's just going to have to be the way it is. By November, it's going to smell really bad inside the bear costumes, I imagine. They may have to put some nice evergreen ETQ area scent in the house to cover that up. Not a bad idea anyway. A nice smell for the house. But there's also another possibility. At some point, guests may ponder why the bear is wearing track shoes. Oh well. So, and the next house is a similar concept. I mean, they have a bunch of costumes, but they don't want to redo the same thing over and over again. They have to have a totally new idea and a new setting. Well, this is Florida. And you can go down to any area like Melbourne or Cocoa or over to Tampon or any of the other places where they have an ocean, because we're in Central Florida. Or even here you can get Don John or whatever, but you could go to the warehouses and the retail, because Universal can find a way to get stuff cheaply, and you can cheaply get discounted whatever you can, not retail, but wholesale, so you can get lots and lots of stuff that you'll need, like coolers and the styrofoam things, and the inflatable beach toys and balls and things, and volleyball nets, and swim fins and goggles and umbrellas, all the things you would have. And sand you can find anywhere. Sand is cheap. You can find it in your own damn backyard. You get the sand, and all they need then is to put up some lovely scrims with some palm trees or tropical beach looking, ocean looking scenery. Just paint that on there quickly, and voila, you have scenes at the beach. Though they might even be able to get a couple of surfboards. And the costumes, they'll save lots of money, because this is Florida, and every young person or old person, any person they hire as a scare actor will likely have their own bathing suit and beachwear and sunglasses, silly beach hats, all the sort of thing people wear on the beach themselves, and so they can save on costuming, because the team members will have the scare actors will already have their own wardrobe, because they have bathing suits at home, and all they have to do is put on the victim makeup for them, and then there you go. You've got the whole thing ready, and all you have to do is to add all those costumes I mentioned before, and the characters we've had a couple of times for the house, which is called Surf Yetis. That's right, Yetis at the beach. In fact, I've managed to get my hands on a little bit of preview merchandise. Let me get that for you. I have it hanging up right here. See, look at that. This will be on sale at the event. I managed to snag a piece of this. Yes, we're going to have surf yetis. It should be quite lovely. And imagine the fun music they'll have in that house. All that surf type music. Ah. All righty. Let's see, that's been 4 houses. 6 more to go. Now, I touched on a little bit with Chucky and the icons and the monsters. When it comes to IPs this year, they really couldn't afford to pay for IPs, even those that were released by Universal, because they still have to pay Blumhouse or whoever they're working with. And that was cut from the budget. So if you're expecting Five Nights at Freddy's house this year, like everybody's expecting it, sorry, not going to happen. They don't have the budget to pay for the IP and to make the costumes. They have to use what they've got. So they're not doing that sort of a house this year. No, they have to use IPs they already have and costumes they already have for the most part. And there's sort of cartoonish houses they have in mind from what they've already got. And if you go down Hollywood Boulevard any day at the theme park, you notice certain characters in costume right there. So they already have the characters and costumes and some of the props. So they're going to do a Scooby-Doo house this year. Isn't that lovely? And as for the scenario, they have, of course, plenty of costumes from previous years of vampires and zombies and monsters. They even have some of those diving helmet things from some of the classic ghosts from the old series, and so they'll have all sorts of things to chase those meddling kids through the house. They'll see quite a bit of that. It's very simple. Have them run down corridors over and over again. A lot of that, while the music and the Scooby-Doo. So it should be quite fun. Again, that's something I've wondered why they didn't do a long time before. That seems obvious. One less obvious and an entirely new area of the park to be utilized. And I'm kind of wondering how the heck they're going to have a queue to get there. But some of the areas that they had before are not going to be as accessible as they used to be. So they need to use some other areas because of construction. And amazingly, it's a challenge right where a lot of the work is happening in Kids Zone. They're going to use an area in Kids Zone. Specifically, that Store Pants shop. They're going to clear that out and turn it into a haunted house. It's going to be themed. It's going to be themed to SpongeBob, but a dark, twisted SpongeBob, like some of the more horrifying memes you might have seen. Yes. But again, they have all the costumes and props from the parade, plus what's inside the shop already, so they can turn Bikini Bottom into a nightmare scenario. It should traumatize a lot of people from their childhood. Actually, it kind of makes me freak out thinking about it. One person had the clever idea of putting up actual aquarium tanks with actual fish in them as part of it, but that was shot down because, again, budget. It's too expensive to do that. At any rate, the name they have for this haunted house is just, well, the Great Scarier Reef. I don't know who could have thought of something that silly. Oh well. So, after that, another house they can do very easily, and I really don't have to go into much explanation here because you might have already guessed. But with this budget cuts, and they need to do something quick on the cheap that they can easily do, and have another IP in the park, that will cost them just about nothing. I don't really have to go into detail. I just have to say this one word. Purge! Yes, again. Sorry. I'm so sorry. But that's what it is. Alrighty then. Now let's see, that was 7 houses, isn't it? Yes, we have 3 more. So, now, if you're old enough to remember, I think it was Halloween Horror Nights 20, back in 2010, there was a scare zone right in the area where now you can play with the Transformers. You can go hang out, or where recently you used to talk to Donkey, right in there where the merchandise shop for the new villains convention attraction that replaced Shrek, and where there's little Minions stuff, and then you go into Transformers stuff. They used to call it Shrek Alley. I don't know what they call it now. But that little street has been there forever, long before there was Shrek. What did they call it before there was Shrek? I don't know. But there have been scare zones in there years ago. They don't do that anymore. But once upon a time, there was a scare zone there that was like the most minimalist scare zone of all time. It was called Night Maze. And they had black scrims on, like, moving, rolling panels. Just so it was black walls. And then sketches were all completely black. Like those in Japanese bunraku or something. They were just all covered in black costumes, hoods, and no details. And basically, the idea was that you try to go through this area in the dark with the fog, and they move the walls around, and so you're trying to go through this maze, and this outdoor maze, and suddenly the path has changed, and you're disoriented in the fog, and you can't find your way through, which really worked good on paper. And some nights, if it was dark and the fog was good, it would be quite effective. But when the event started, and you still have a couple hours of daytime before, it was kind of silly, because you could see what was going on, and it really wasn't disorienting because you just saw them moving these panels around in the light of day, and it's like, yeah, right. And you don't know where to look. It was just kind of silly. Well, some people thought it was ridiculous. Some people thought it was terrible scare zone. So there are some people, though, who really liked it and it has a cult following. Good old Night Maze. Well, it seems pretty obvious that one of the first ideas they had when they realized they needed to be on a budget was Night Maze the house. And actually, it's a pretty spectacular concept if you think about it, because remember that long, dark tunnel in some of the houses? Like, I think it was the most recently they had such a room in the Haunting of Hill House. And if you can remember when they did, I think it was the first Insidious house at Orlando, they had a room like that. We just had to go through this long, dark tunnel, and there was fog, and it was just all black, and you couldn't see. The whole house is like that, except the walls move. Not just hands coming out of the walls, but the walls move, and so you can get completely frickin' lost in there. It's like Code Blind Terror was supposed to be way back in the year 2000, if you remember that. When was that? Was that 2000? Or was that 2004? That was 2004 when they had the two-part concept. Yes. I'm old. Some of you might remember some of these things when you were small children, but some of you weren't born yet. But anyway, it'll be quite terrifying. But again, it can be done really, really cheap. Nightmare's the house. Right. But here, the creativity versus the budget cuts reached points of desperation, I think, for the remaining couple of houses. Because again, they had these sessions where they're sitting around trying to figure out how they're going to do this, and somebody mentioned how they had those long queue lines going through a soundstage before it goes into the other house that's in another soundstage. They've done that even last year, I believe, where they actually run the queue through a soundstage. And they said, God, that was, like, when are you going to get out of this queue? And you think you're going into the house, and you're in a queue, and the queue keeps going before you finally go to the other side. It's kind of an endurance thing. And someone said, what a great idea for a house! And so, yeah, we're going to have a house which is just queue. You go into the house and it's still the queue, and the queue keeps going. When you go up, there's going to be a sign that tells you how long the queue is, and it will say something like 5,000 years. And it's like, oh my God, instead of like sometimes it will say 3 hours or 4 hours. It'll say something like 500 hours or 666 hours, whatever. It's the queue through hell, the queue that doesn't end. And you're going through the house, and are you ever going to get out? It'll be hot and sweaty in there and uncomfortable. But there are scare actors in the crowd, dressed like guests. Again, saving bigly on budget by not having to have costuming, and they're just wearing regular clothes like a guest. And you'll never know if the person who suddenly starts screaming and ripping out her eyes and blood gushes out and horrifically is an actual scare actor doing part of a scene, or if it's an actual guest who's actually lost her mind. Or if the guy who suddenly freaks out and pulls out a weapon and starts murdering other people on the queue, if this is a set scenario and those are all scare actors, or if you're actually caught in some actual domestic terrorism, and you'll never know which one it'll be unless you actually survive and get out of the house. If you get out of the house. Sorry. I can see that might be a bit problematic. I hope they've worked it out with their legal department. I don't know. But basically, it's the queue that never ends. And the final house. Oh, some of these houses will just be a lot of black drop cloths as a tribute to John Murdy. Oh, he said that. Oh, you naughty girl. And, the final house. It's basically just a maze, and they've released an angry goose in the house. An angry goose that doesn't want you to be there. And if you know what I mean, you know that's going to be the most terrifying house of all time. People are going to run out of that house screaming. And that's probably going to end up becoming an icon by acclamation. Pissed off goose that doesn't want you to be there. Yep, there's going to be t-shirts that said, "Oh shit, it's a pissed off goose that doesn't want you there." Yeah. They'll have screamers and everything. Oh yes, so those are the haunted houses this year, done cheaply on a budget. Now what about scare zones? Well, I'm sorry. It's going to be kind of like 2012, except all those wonderful cemetery set pieces? No. No set pieces at all. There's not going to be any, they're not going to dress up the park with any set pieces. It'll just be the characters on their own, like hordes. But, one consolation, it's not going to be roaming hordes. It's going to be non-roaming hordes. They're all going to stay in their own area. So San Francisco will be full of zombies like it was back in 2011 and 2012. Actually, yeah, full of zombies. They have the costumes. They have the makeup. Easy to do. Just put a F ton of zombies in San Francisco. And we have in New York Street area, basically your basic apocalypse cannibal chainsaw guys running around without shirts and wearing, fatigues and combat boots with chainsaws, lots of wounds and bruises, whatever, as they usually do. So they'll have that running around, chasing people. That's something they've done a bazillion times, easy to do. It always works to have an apocalypse in New York. They've done that so many times. They'll just do that again. Quick and dirty. And then in Central Park, ghillies. They've got those costumes. They've used those since I think since the beginning. Those big leafy camouflage-like things where the characters are covered with netting that has leaves on them, and they kind of scrunch down. You think they're part of the scenery, and then they jump out and oh my goodness. So it's just ghillies in Central Park. Very effective, actually. You fill it full of fog, and they'll come out, and you won't know if it's a shrubbery or a scare actor until it's too late. And then, of course, we have scarecrows and pumpkins, because they've got a ton of that. They'll even be able to put some pumpkins up in the main gate area. When you go up, it used to be called Plaza of the Stars or Production. So what do they call it now? Production Central. That area where you go. It's all Illumination Avenue or whatever nowadays. Whatever they call it, the Minions area. They can put up a bunch of pumpkins. They can put Little Boo up there again, and all the scarecrows and pumpkin heads. They have all those costumes, so there'll be a bunch of those guys there. Very lovely. So that's how they're going to deal with scare zones, quick and cheap. But the most clever idea is Hollywood Boulevard. Hollywood Boulevard. Remember, we had Vamp 55 there a few years ago, and then we had Vamp 85 in New York, and more recently, Vamp 69, dude. Well, they came up with the most clever idea for a budget-conscious scare zone that they've ever had. Get ready, folks, for Vamp 2024. All they gotta do is the makeup, and the scare actors could just wear their own clothes, because it's 2024. It'll work. So those are our 5 scare zones. Now, shows. They can't afford a show on the stage. That's just flat out. They can't do it. But they took footage, enormous amount of. They do that every time. Back in the Bill and Ted days, they did. They always tape the shows, and they put it together for future promotional work, and also just to have an archive video of the show. They're all stored somewhere, I guess, probably in a cloud nowadays. But they have all this footage from the past 3 years of Nightmare Fuel. So what they're going to do is they're going to edit it together into a lovely video presentation, and it'll be projected on the water in the lagoon. So it's going to be a Nightmare Fuel lagoon show with all the music and everything, and the fountains going up. And, you know, when she says, "Ready or not, here I come," there'll be a big burst of water shooting up in a big spurt. Boom! Yes, just all over the place. Creamy white foam spurting out when she says that. And it's going to be called Nightmare Fuel Wet Dream. Yes, so that's the show this year. So that's the scare zones, the houses, the show for Halloween Horror Nights 33. But there is a silver lining to all the rapid, massive budget cuts. There's going to be one thing that they have been allotted an enormous amount of money for, more than ever before, for this one thing. And why is that? Because the people concerned about revenue, you see. But there's one thing at Horror Nights that brings in the money more than anything else. What is the Holy Grail, that which creates such revenue that it is going to be encouraged and made beautiful and glorious and better than before? The merchandising, of course. Remember yogurt and Spaceballs. Merchandising. Ah, ka-ching, ka-ching. Because everybody wants to spend all their money. Yes, Universal, take all my money. I'm going to buy that shirt and these keychains and all this stuff and all the little Screamer vinyls and oh my God, spend, 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 spend. So that means we're going to have simply the most wonderful, elaborate, and spectacular tribute store of all time. It'll be quite amazing. Remember the Mardi Gras tribute store? It might still be up. Quick, before they take it down, go take a look at it. They have, like, apparitions materializing. They had, until recently, a fully automated skeleton at the end. He's not quite so used to eyes and laughter. Now he's kind of just standing still. But they had stuff, and they had an alligator swimming on the floor. They had an alligator swimming. Now there's a shark. That seems to be a clue for what's coming this summer. Ooh. Shark in the dark in the park. Well. Well. Times 1,000. This is going to be better than a haunted house. It's going to have little narrow passageways with scares, not scare actors, no, but special animatronics and more projections and other items, all sorts of interesting things moving and manipulating. It'll be quite astounding. You'll be going through there and you'll get a terrified scare, and then the spotlight after you're scared and your heart is racing and you're disoriented and your will has been suppressed. Boom, spotlight on all the merchandise in that area. Ooh, I have to buy this now. It's psychological manipulation. They're going to make you more vulnerable, and therefore you'll be forced to buy more stuff than you would have otherwise, because you'll be in that state, breaking you down. Like they learn this stuff from the military and the CIA. Yes, and you go through the entire house and you'll end up with an armful of merchandise after you've been traumatized with all the horrific scares and special effects, and then you'll spend hundreds of dollars on the way out. Oh, it's a really brilliant move, but it's going to be memorable, better than any previous haunted attraction at Universal. And they'll be talking about the tribute store for decades to come. That'll be the highlight of Halloween Horror Nights 33. So there you have it. All secrets of Halloween Horror Nights 33 revealed. Happy Easter Monday.